he says that if that the moment that Abraham dies, that he is going to kill Jacob. For now, he doesn't want to cause his father any problems, doesn't want to cause him this heartache. But the moment that that Isaac dies, Jacob is in trouble, and so he's sent away by his mother to escape the wrath of his brother. And so we have the story of Jacob meeting God in Bethel and being in this place where he says, surely the presence of the Lord is here. He sees this stairway to heaven. And God had other moments of significance with Jacob. And sorry, I'm going to go on transition here as we are running out of time and we still need to get to Moses. Okay, so it is in a wrestling match that Jacob has with God, that he says that he is not going to stop fighting or striving with God until he is blessed. And it's after that day that Jacob, he never walks the same after that. That the angel, or this theophany of God in the wrestling match, injures Jacob, and he always walks with a limp. He always walks a little differently after that. And so it's significant that in this encounter that Jacob has with God, that he never walks the same after having this encounter. And after this encounter, his name is also changed from Jacob to Israel. And here we have the nation of Israel. And so Jacob goes on and he has 12 sons, and we see coming out of these 12 sons the 12 nations of Israel, or the 12 tribes. We see Reuben, Simeon, Levi, Judah, Dan, Naphtali, Gad, Asher, Issachar, Zebulun, Joseph, which we have two half-tribes that come from Joseph, and the tribe of Benjamin. Okay, and I'm going to go on. We'll talk about one of his sons, Joseph. Joseph was the eldest son of Rachel, and Rachel was Jacob, or Israel's favorite wife, and so Joseph became the favorite son of Jacob. And Joseph had a dream that his brothers were going to bow to him, that all of his family was going to bow. So this isn't a great idea. Brothers are going to have a difficult time. Anyways, it's probably not a great idea to tell your brothers that God's given you a vision and a promise that they're going to bow down to you. This just makes matters worse at this point. And to just rub it in a little more, Jacob had a special coat made for Joseph. And while all the other brothers were out working, Jacob got to sit at home with his father. So one day, Jacob sends Joseph, his favorite son, out to check on his brothers. As his brothers see him coming, they say, hey, here's this dreamer. Let's take care of this issue. And so they plan this out, and they throw him in a pit. But Reuben says, what good does it do us for us to just leave, for us to just kill Joseph? Why don't we at least make a little money off this? And so there are slave traders that are coming by, and they sell Joseph into slavery. And so this slave trade takes Joseph into Egypt. And he becomes a favorite servant, even has God's favor as a servant in Egypt, but is falsely accused by Potiphar's wife, and so he is sent into prison at this time. And so while he's there, he meets two men that were servants of Pharaoh, and he correctly interprets dreams that they had received. And so as time goes on, the one that served wine to the king is in the court of the Pharaoh when Pharaoh's had a dream. No one's able to interpret it, and he says, I remember someone who was able to interpret my dream. So they go and get Joseph out of prison. He's able to correctly tell the Pharaoh that there's going to be 7 years of plenty and there's going to be 7 years of famine, so we need to prepare. And so Joseph once again receives favor from God, becomes the second man in charge of Egypt. And so now famine's taken over the world, and Joseph's family is now needing to receive food. So where are they going to go? They are going to go to Egypt. And it's from Joseph that they end up being able to survive this famine. And as the story continues, they eventually do end up bowing down to their brother, and Joseph sends for all of his family, and they come to live within Egypt. And this is where we will transition now, and we get to cover Moses in like 10 minutes. This is a lot to cover today. So Scripture tells us that as Joseph's family came and lived, I'm going the wrong way here. As Joseph's family came and lived in Egypt, that they began to multiply. They became many. And 400 years have passed now. Israel's become a great nation within Egypt. And there came a Pharaoh that didn't know Joseph. He didn't have that type of relationship with the people of Israel. And he becomes worried about there being an uprising from the people of Israel, that they will take over the nation. And so he makes a rule that all the male children are to be killed. But there is this one child who is saved. His mother saves him, puts him in a basket in the Nile. Pharaoh's daughter finds Moses, draws him out of the water, and he's raised in the home of Pharaoh. And it's while he is in the home of Pharaoh that he sees an Egyptian beating a Hebrew, and when he sees this, he becomes angry. He kills this Egyptian who is beating the Hebrew, and later on he sees two Hebrew men fighting. And when he tries to solve the issue, they say, "What are you going to do? Kill us like you killed the Egyptian." And so then Moses realizes that he's in trouble. That this isn't really the people that he belongs with. That if the people of Egypt find out, that he's going to be in trouble. And so he flees and goes into the wilderness. And it's after Moses had been in the wilderness for some time. He had taken a wife, taken a family, that now he receives a call from God. He is given a word from God in another theophany that we have now in a burning bush, and he's told that he is going to lead the people of Israel out of Egypt. But Moses doesn't know how he's going to do this. He begins to doubt God. "How am I going to do this, Lord?" And he tells him, "Look in your hand." That's his response to Moses. When Moses doesn't know what to do, God tells him, "Just look in your hand." That what Moses needed to be the leader that he was called to be, God had already provided to him the things that were necessary. But Moses continued to doubt God. He said, "I stutter, I have a problem speaking. How am I going to go before Pharaoh?" And so the Lord tells him he's going to give him his brother Aaron to help him with this, and that Aaron would be the voice, because he continued to doubt that he could do the job. And so Moses obeys the Lord. He returns to Egypt and goes to Pharaoh and tells him to let my people go. And because Pharaoh wouldn't let him go, there were 10 plagues that God took out judgment upon Egypt with. So God uses the things that Egypt worshiped in order to send plagues upon Egypt. He sent frogs, cattle. He had darkness, which covers the sun, which they worshiped. And the Nile River had great power to them. And that water of the Nile was turned into blood. And so after each of these plagues, Pharaoh agreed to let the Israelites go, but each time he changed his mind. Exodus 5:1-2 says, "And afterward Moses and Aaron went in and told Pharaoh, Thus saith the Lord God of Israel, Let my people go, that they may hold a feast unto me in the wilderness. And Pharaoh said, Who is the Lord, that I should obey his voice to let Israel go? I know not the Lord, neither will I let Israel go." And so, after each of these plagues, Pharaoh would want to let the people go, but then the Lord hardened his heart. So after the Pharaoh finally let the Israelites go, the Lord told Moses to speak to his people and to take a male lamb, 1 year old and without blemish, for each household. And he instructed them to kill the lamb and apply its blood to the two doorposts and the lintel. Alright, so the doorpost and the part that goes at the top of the door. And so they were to eat quickly with their shoes, belt on, and staff in hand, because this was the time to leave Egypt. This was the final plague, and after this, Pharaoh is going to let the people go. And at midnight the Lord passed through Egypt and killed the firstborn of every household that did not have the blood on the doorpost. And so we see salvation in this. We see typology here, that death passed by as it saw the blood. 1 Corinthians 5:7 says, "Purge out therefore the old leaven, that ye may be a new lump, as you are unleavened, for even Christ our Passover is sacrificed for us." This was the first Passover, as death passed over them. And Christ is compared to that Passover lamb. 1 Peter 1:19 says, "But with the precious blood of Christ, as of a lamb without blemish and without spot." That is the thing that allows us to escape death. And so Pharaoh finally decides to let the Israelites go after the firstborn of every household that did not have this blood died. And so that meant his own son died. And so he finally lets the people go. And we're told that the Lord led the people by a pillar of cloud during the day, and by night they were led by a pillar of fire. And so as they go on their way, they now come across the Red Sea. And they have mountains on each side of them and the Red Sea in front of them. And the Pharaoh's heart is hardened once again. He wants to go and bring all these Israelites back. And so it's while they are there that they begin to complain. "Moses, have you brought us out here to die? We've got the sea in front of us, mountains on each side of us, and we have the Egyptians coming to kill us or bring us back behind us. What have you done?" And so it's in that moment that the Red Sea is split, and the Israelites are able to cross the Red Sea as if they are walking on dry ground. And as they cross, they get across safely. The Egyptians go in, and at that time the waters are let back in, and none of the Egyptians are able to make it out. And so after 3 months on their journey from Egypt, they arrived at Mount Sinai, and they remained there for 1 year. At Mount Sinai, God gave Moses the 10 Commandments, as well as other moral, ceremonial, and civil laws. And so the law was our schoolmaster to bring us to Christ, that we may be justified. Exodus 19:20 says, "And the Lord came down upon Mount Sinai on the top of the mount, and the Lord called Moses up to the top of the mount, and Moses went." And so he was called to go up there, and it was at the top of Mount Sinai where Moses receives the 10 Commandments, and he receives the law. And so now we've made it to the tabernacle, and Sister Kelly is going to go over that next month, I believe. And so she wants to be sure that everyone makes it for that lesson. It's going to be a very important lesson, and you don't want to miss that. So with that, we'll finish the class. And I'll check in with Brother Kelly and make sure we get something figured out on the homework situation, see what that's like.
Thank you.